Guys, I woke up today and I was just fired up. I was fired up about everything going on with Pigskin Frenzy because when I woke up today, I was like, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. We're ready to rock and roll with some more Pigskin Frenzy, and we have a very special guest on this show today, and you're not going to want to miss it. Getting into college football, it's Matt Williams with OCN 365. I am so excited to talk about college football with him. We're ready to go, ready to rock and roll. I'm fired up. Off season does not matter here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just letting you guys know now. It doesn't matter. It is football all year round and more college football coming your way today. Guys, welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I am Joel Norris. Whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Podbean, or Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage and some stories and some guests, guys, presented by me. Whether you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Like each episode, leave comments down below. Guys, if you're listening on Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. There's X and Instagram at pigskin_frenzy. Follow, like the pages there. You're going to get episode updates, news and highlights from across college and NFL football. You're going to get trivia questions on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's college football trivia question as well as all things to date for Pigskin Frenzy. There's the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. You're going to find all things to date for Pigskin Frenzy there. You're going to find platforms, store affiliations. There's contact info down below. You can answer, name, email, question, anything you want to ask me or Matt. I can refer it back to Matt. You can contact me down there on that website. It's www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. More on the website coming soon as we continue to regularly update the website there. Guys, it is college football day today. I'm so fired up. We have a brand new guest joining us today, and he is first time on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, his name is Matt Williams, OCN 365 on Instagram. On X, he runs a Broncos superfan page on Instagram. He is awesome. He's one of my good friends. We talk a lot about football off the show, and he is now joining us, and he is now getting into college football. So Matt Williams, welcome to Pigskin Frenzy, man. How are you, dude?
I'm good, man. I was really excited to do this. It's been a long time since we worked together. I was really looking forward to, man. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. And we've been talking like off Pigskin Frenzy and off air, just talking about trying to get you on the show and trying to get you to just talk football. And then once I heard, okay, I was going from, discontinuing NFL, just going straight into college football, you were thinking, oh man, I ought to get into college football. And you were saying to me, you were like, man, I mean, I'm starting to get into some of this stuff going on now. And I'm like, okay, maybe I need to put you back on the show then, and we can start talking some college football. So it is really good to see you and really good to, have you on. And just for the heck of it, just to get to know Matt Williams, the person outside of Orange Crush News 365, right? Just to get, the broader scope of Matt Williams, who you are. Who are you outside of football media, man? And just to give us a brief introduction of who you are and give everybody who listens to the show of Pigskin Frenzy who you are.
Yeah, so, if you guys go to my Instagram, you see in my bio, the very first line is loving father, husband, and Navy man by day and Broncos blogger by night. A little bit about myself. I was born in Fall River, Massachusetts. It's about an hour and a half south of Boston. My dad was in the Navy, so we kind of grew up all over the place. So if you're like, oh, you're from Boston, but you don't, that accent's not there, it's because I lost it a very long time ago. Like I said, my dad was in the Navy. He did 22 years, and then he retired. So I grew up all over. And not even just in the U.S. Like, we lived in Cuba, and then we came back to the U.S. So, I mean, I grew up all over the place. But, and then I just kind of carried on the tradition, and then I ended up joining the Navy myself right out of high school. Graduated high school in 2008, and, I said, you know what? I always knew I was going to join the Navy or the military in general. I always knew I was going to join, even when I was a little kid. Stripped off the basic training, and here I am, almost 17 years later, still serving.
And it's fun. And it's funny because coming from a military family myself, my dad was in the Air Force, right? For so long. I moved around so much. What's it like being in the military overall, and how's it like really changed your life in general? Because there's been, for me at least, I've moved around so much. I had to, go to a spot, I'd get close with people, then I'd move away, and it's like, oh man, this kind of sucks, and then you got to start all over. So it's like, relationship wise and just in general, how has the Navy and military changed your life in general?
I want to say it's made me a little bit more resilient. I mean, I was always used to the moves. Again, like I said, my dad was in the Navy. Every 2 to 3 years, we were always picking up and going and whatnot. So I've never lived anywhere more than, I want to say 3 to 4 years. So that I was already kind of used to that, but I want to say it made me a little bit more resilient because the military, they do throw things at you. They throw a lot of things at you, and it's changing now. From 2008 to now, it's changed drastically. The way they do advancement, the way, the uniform changes, everything. So it's made me more resilient. I want to say it like that. Yeah, a little bit more resilient. I don't want to say like I lack discipline. It definitely made me a little bit more disciplined now. My wife might beg to differ on that one, but it definitely made me not stress the small stuff because there's worse things that could happen. So I don't stress out about a lot now. There's not a lot that phases me anymore. So I definitely want to say they gave me a little bit more of a backbone.
And that's a good thing to have. It instills character, toughness, just like football. So it kind of goes hand in hand a little bit with football. And before we get into the football, just about being in the military, like what is your favorite thing about it? Where was your favorite place to serve and be? And what are your favorite things if you had one regret about being in the military, if you had, anything like you would rather do and try to restart about being in the military, what would it be?
Well, so when I originally joined the Navy, I wanted to do what's called Master at Arms. And what that is, it's basically military police. And when I went to MEPS, Military and Processing Station, when I went to MEPS and I passed the ASVAB, I scored high enough to be MA, did all the physicals, and then we get to the color vision test. And it's called the PIP test. And when it is, it looks like Dippin' Dots. If you guys ever seen Dippin' Dots, think of it like Dippin' Dots. And they're like, all right, there's a number in here. Tell me what number you see. And I didn't see anything. So I'm like shooting from the hip, making up numbers. And he's like, yeah, you're colorblind, man. So I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, he's like, you can't be a Master at Arms, but you could be a corpsman. I had no idea what that was. Never heard of it. Didn't. I was like, what's that? And he sold it to me like, oh yeah, you go with the Marines, you take care of their injuries and whatnot. So I definitely don't regret that happened because I love being a corpsman. It's been great. I've been doing it since I got into the Navy. And I think the most rewarding thing about that is like when you treat a patient, when you treat a casualty and whatnot, and they're nursed back to health, and you see them grow, that like they're nursed back to health, like they recover well, and it's because of something you did. That's a very rewarding thing, so I don't regret that at all. As far as my favorite duty station, I'm currently at command number 7 now. I'm currently with 1st Medical Battalion out here in Camp Pendleton, California. And what we do is we provide secondary care or Role 2 care to injured patients out on the battlefield. If they go down the front lines, they get medevac to us, and we continue care. But I want to say my favorite command would be the USS Peleliu that was out here in San Diego, California. I always tell all my sailors, that was the best part of my naval career. The places I got to go to Dubai, Thailand, Timor-Leste, Hong Kong, Jordan, Oman. So like getting to go out on the ocean and just sail, basically sail the world. We did a few anti-piracy missions. We did a rescue mission. There was a couple that went out on a sailing trip, and unfortunately the husband fell overboard, and unfortunately we couldn't find him. But we were able to at least rescue the wife, who happened to be pregnant as well. So we did some rescue missions as well. So that was fun. That experience is something I'll never forget. But it also does have its downsides as well. So I always make the joke like the Navy trained me to be a corpsman, but I'm very proficient at sweeping water off a warship in the middle of the ocean during a rainstorm. So there's always that.
I mean, there's always the hardships about being in the military. There's also like the soft spots about being in the military too. So, and thank you for serving. It is a tremendous honor for you, for have you on our show talking about those experiences and just, just serving our country in general, man. So thank you for all that you do and the sacrifices that you make for us, man. So moving on from personal aspect to football, going into it, did you ever play football? And not only that, if you didn't or did not, because for me, it's like everyone's going to sit there and you say like, oh, this guy played football. To me, I just studied the game. I haven't played football. which is surprising. I haven't played, but I just know the game so much because I've studied it and watched and know the ins and outs, as I've just was a nerd about it and I wanted to know everything. So, when did you first fell in love with football, if you did play or if you did not play?
So I always wanted to play football. The problem was I was a very small child,
Yeah.
and my dad was all for it. My mom, like, no, we got to find you a different sport. You're too small. So my mom, I never got to play football. But I did play flag football. Like once I joined the military, I joined a couple of like the Navy leagues and I played flag football. But I mean, I've always played like pickup backyard games, and that's kind of how I learned the game of football, the roles of the DBs and the receivers and the line. That's when I really kind of started enjoying it. I want to say probably when I really got into football was when Denver won their first Super Bowl against the Green Bay Packers, 1997. John Elway, the helicopter, the legend, Terrell Davis playing with migraines, and Mike Shanahan was like, just run forward, and he was the MVP of that. So that's when I really kind of started watching the game. But yeah, I never got to play until I graduated high school, and then again I just started playing through the Navy. But I was always athletic, and I just kind of already understood. Like you, I studied the game, I watched the game, so I kind of already knew how to play and knew what my roles and responsibilities were. And then just playing and having people coach me throughout my naval career is how I kind of got a better understanding of the game.
And the thing is, it's, for a lot of people, and this is funny because there's a lot of coaches out there also, like football coaches that actually did not play a down of college football or football in general. Example for college coach, one example is LSU's head coach, Brian Kelly. He didn't play college football. He didn't play football at all, but he knew the game and understood it and learned and dove deep. And now he's the head coach of one of the most prestigious SEC programs in the country, right? And college football programs in the country. So it's very interesting because there's a lot of people like me who are in football media who have never played a down of football. And the thing is, what got you into football media and wanted you, just to start an Instagram page like OCN365? What made you just think, okay, I think I can do sports media, minus the degree, because anybody can do sports media. And I wholeheartedly believe that, can start a podcast and do whatever. When did you first think in your head, like, okay, I think as a side gig, I can do football media?
So I started OCN at, right at the start of the 2023 season. And before that, so I'm a big fan of, I want to say it's the Mile High Report. And they're like a little segment of their own and whatnot. They do a lot of articles. And the thing is, whenever I'd, from the previous season, whenever I'd watch the game, they do winners and losers of the game. And everything they were saying is stuff that I was, thinking as well. Like, yeah, we could have run the ball better. Like, what was Russ thinking on that play? The turnovers and all these, everything that they were saying is what I was thinking. I was like, you know what? Why don't I put my thoughts and talk about my opinions of the game and share it with everyone? Because it sounds like cool. Because my biggest fear is like, I know not everyone's going to agree with you, but it's like when if people, like, nobody likes what I have to say, nobody agrees. And,
Yeah.
It's one thing to not have everyone agree or, some people disagree, but when everyone disagrees, then it's like, am I not cut out for this? So then I was like, you know what? If these are like experts and analysts and we're saying the same thing, like, why don't I give my shot? Orange Crush comes from obviously the renowned defense, Randy Gradishar, Orange Crush, newly selected member of the Hall of Fame. And originally I wanted to call it the Broncos Bomb, which is named after a alcoholic drink. There's a Broncos, I'm going to give them some love because I used to love going there when I was stationed in D.C. It's called Penn Quarter Sports Tavern. And if you guys ever go to there during the Broncos game, it is a trip, man. It is fun. You guys will have a great time. Before kickoff, they do Orange Crush soda and blue carousel. And right as they're about to kick the ball off, they drop the carousel in the Orange Crush, and then they take a shot. And then I was like, you know what, Broncos Bomb. I don't know, maybe people aren't gonna like that, so I stuck with Orange Crush News.
And the thing is, though, makes sense because, like, you Denver Broncos fan, Orange Crush, all the history there just makes sense. So, what's your favorite? And this is a fun question going into the page. Like, before I ask what goes into it, I can ask that, I guess, now. But what goes in to Orange Crush News, your Instagram page? Because a lot of people don't understand how hard, despite running a podcast, it is extremely hard to like run my own business, run a show. It's extremely hard to run social media pages as well. It's hard to be consistent with it. So what goes in to Orange Crush News 365? What goes in to what you're doing as a post, and what's some of the most fun things, as well as a two-parter to that question, that you have posted on that page?
So, like you said, it's a lot. And during the season, I do a lot of pregame and postgame breakdowns. So it's a lot of like you have to look at the numbers. And a lot of people are like, oh, like forget the numbers. The numbers don't matter. It's just no, but they actually do. And this is why I'll never underestimate opponents, because if you go back to 2023, Denver's Christmas Eve game with the Patriots, or the Saturday night game against the Patriots, on paper, the Broncos were better, but the New England Patriots had the number 2 run defense. So that's another thing. You have to look at who's ranked where, because they do matter. At the end of the day, they do matter. And as you all know, the Patriots ended up beating the Broncos in that game because of their defense, So it's a lot of like, all right, where, the Broncos are playing the Eagles. Okay, where's the Eagles defense ranked? Well, where's their weaknesses at? Where are the Ravens' weaknesses at? How many yards are they averaging? So it's a lot of analytics. You have to look, and it's like, okay, how much are the Broncos averaging or allowing, and how much are the Ravens, averaging on offense? So it's a lot of, compare and contrast, I guess you can say. So it's a lot of that. It's a lot of analyzing, and then you have to put it in thoughts. Another thing is Instagram, X, whatever, they don't allow you a whole lot of space to blog, because it's not meant for that. Essentially, it's not like your own website, you can write however long you want. So you kind of have to sometimes there's just like a lot to talk about. There's so much to unpack in it, but it's like I don't have much space to do it, so you have to consolidate everything. But when I first started, another thing too is coming up with your own graphics, because now everything is if someone sees that you use their image, they can take legal action with that. So creating your own graphics, I'm not technically sound at all, man. So getting used to creating own graphics so that I don't get into any kind of trouble. That was another thing. I want to say I had 2 really good where my page really took off. I had a really good post, and it was during last season, and it was after the Bengals game, and there was an image of Bo Nix talking with T. Higgins. Now everyone knows the whole deal with T. Higgins, like the contract dispute and all that other good stuff, and people were jumping to conclusions that he was trying to get T. Higgins to come to Denver. And I did a little piece on that, and that just took off. And that's where, that was a lot of fun. And then I want to say the other one was, coming up. That's another thing too, is you have to kind of know football and know who's up for trade, who's up for free agency, and give your opinions on that. So that's always fun. That was a good post. I gave an opinion on Garrett Wilson, making the claim if Aaron Rodgers comes back, I don't want to stay in New York. So I did a piece on that, which was another fun piece. But again, it's a lot of research. So you have to do all your research, put all your eggs in the basket, do all your research, and then consolidate those thoughts so you can put it down on your blog.
And the thing is, it's going to even get bigger, because the Broncos are looking like they're going to be a solid football team heading into the fall. And the thing is, before I ask a fun question, before we move into the college football talk, but talking about just your page, with the Broncos just becoming more of a prominent team and getting back to where they were in prominence, right? How is it, how is that going to affect you running your page? Is it going to get even busier now that the Broncos are starting to become more of a legit contender again in the NFL? Would you believe that, okay, my work's about to get even more hectic with OCN, just because you got the Bo Nix coming in and coming alive as y'all's quarterback, and then you have Sean Payton doing a good job leading this team into his 3rd season, right? So it's how is that going to take effect on your page?
I definitely think it's going to make things more interesting. I don't want to say busier, but I want to say it's going to make it more interesting, because now one of the things that I plan on talking about is obviously RJ Harvey, what they went through. They kept trading back and trading back. And, there was, Travion Henderson was still on the table. Dylan Sampson was still on the table. My guy, Brashard Smith, was still, all these other talented running backs were still on the table. And they kept trading back and ultimately drafted RJ Harvey. Now, at some point, I got on board to the RJ Harvey train, and I found out, by the way, fun fact, he is Roy Jones Jr.'s cousin, and I found out because Roy Jones, he followed me, so I was like, oh, I guess that's what RJ stands for. But anyway, not to get off topic, so now the claim is like, what is RJ? Because he's in contention for RB1. There's Jaleel McLaughlin, that's not sold on him. Audric Estime coming from Notre Dame, had a rough rookie year in the beginning, but then he got better in the end. And now you have RJ Harvey, who is picking up Sean Payton's offense. And now it's like, how is he going to prove that he was worth pursuing and that he was better than the other talent that was, on paper better than he was? So there's a lot to unpack there. So that's going to be something to talk about. That's going to make things interesting because, again, like we said before, not everyone's going to agree with you, regardless. So that's going to be interesting, and it's going to make things more interesting because now you have a young offense, and there's a lot of people. Troy Franklin, what kind of years he had an up and down year last year, off to a slow start. Bo Nix started off slow, ended up with multiple rookie records. And now you have another young asset on the team to talk about. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be very interesting.
One more question. Just one more question before we head into the college football talk. So, as a Broncos fan, what do you expect from the Broncos, and how many games do you think early on that, as a early preview, 3 months out, September's in 3 months, what do you expect going into the season? How many games do you think they're going to win? Give us an early outlook of the Broncos 2025 campaign.
So right now, I'm more convinced on an 11-6 record, but I can see them going 12-5, and I think they're going to get off to a hot start. I think they open up against the Titans. Cam Ward is going to get his shot to see if he can lead the Titans. I think Denver's defense is going to overwhelm him. But the Titans have the number 2 secondary. They were the number 2 ranked defense according to ESPN. So this is going to be, and one of the biggest criticisms was Denver couldn't handle the top ranked teams. They couldn't handle the top ranked defenses and whatnot. So this is going to be this new offense, this young offense versus a top ranked defense. That's going to set the tone. So I feel like if Denver sets the tone and they can perform well against the top 5 defense, I think they're going to win 4 out of their first 5 games. I don't think they're going to beat the Eagles, but I see them getting off to a very hot start, and I can see them going 11-6, possibly 12-5.
And that's a really, really good, stretch, especially coming in for, Bo Nix's second season. So, guys, you heard it here first from OC and 365, Matt Williams right here about the Broncos. Maybe 11-6, maybe 12-5, double-digit win season. We got to see, guys. We have to see. That is some slight NFL talk. I know we're a college football show now, but slight NFL talk there. Moving on to the college football talk, though, because we talked off air, because you started, talking about, okay, I kind of think I need to get more into college football. So what made you decide to get more into college football, and when did you have that feeling in you, like, all right, I think I need to start looking into more of the college football side of things?
I want to say it was at the end of the 2023 season, because I knew I was going to, as a sports media journalist, amateur sports, whatever may have you as a blogger, I'm going to have to talk about the NFL draft. Predictions, who's going to fall where, who is Denver bringing in for those top 30 visits, and interviews, the combine and all that good stuff. So I knew I was going to have to do that. And I've watched college games before, but with my luck, usually sometimes I turn on the TV and it's like Alabama versus Colorado School of Mines, and it's 63-3, and it's only the second quarter, so that I can't watch the blowout games, but I knew like eventually like I'm going to have to, because I'm going to have to cover the draft and look at their film and see their strengths, their weaknesses, and know who Denver is pursuing and where they fall in their rankings and their, where are they projected to go in the draft. So that's when I really kind of started getting into college.
And there's a bunch of exciting things about college for sure, especially entering week one. There's a lot of exciting matchups happening in week one of the 2025 season. I mean, you can name a bunch. I don't know if you looked at the whole schedule of week one of college football yet. It's really, really exciting. It's probably the most exciting opening weekend. And even in the week, I'll even go further, the week zero game in Dublin is going to be exciting as well. I looked at that and I was like, that's actually a pretty good matchup to kick us off for the season. Iowa State and Kansas State playing in that opener, and you're like thinking, wow, man, that's an exciting opener in week zero, right before August 30th hits. So it's just a bunch of exciting games happening, and this is probably the most exciting time to be a college football fan with an exciting opener for the first time in like years. So in the perspective of Matt Williams, so you got a lot of games. Which matchups are you most looking forward to entering week one of the 2025 season?
I'm gonna start with, I don't want to say they're smaller schools, but they're not as, big powerhouses. Iowa State and Kansas State. I think they're evenly matched teams, and I want to see what Kansas State is going to do now that DJ Giddens is in the NFL. I want to see who's going to step up in that running back position. I want to see how that offense moves. And Iowa State, they lost a couple of their receivers as well. So again, who's going to step up? These are schools that lost a lot of talent. They're full of talent, but they also lost their own talent as well. I think they're evenly matched. I think that's going to be a very fun one to watch. And then you have Notre Dame and Miami. I believe they're going to go at it. Notre Dame lost Xavier Watt. So again, who's going to step up? And those are some big shoes to fill. Xavier Watt was one of the top-ranked defensive players going into the draft. So who's going to fill that void for him? But the one I'm really, really excited about, Texas and Ohio State. Yeah, I'm sure you knew I was going to bring it up. Texas and Ohio State. Archie Manning, can he be? I think you talked about it a couple shows ago. He has potential to be a top 10 player. He's not there yet, but I want to see what he does this season, because now he's going to get his shot to lead the Longhorns from start to finish. How is he going to fare? How is he going to do? And he's got a tough ask against Ohio State, who just lost Chip Kelly. So how is Ohio State going to do without their offensive coordinator calling the shots? How are they going to do? Are they going to adjust to this new offensive scheme? So that I'm really excited about that one. I was very surprised to see that matchup in week one.
I think the Texas and Ohio State matchup is interesting because of Chip Kelly not being there, Jim Knowles going to Penn State. You have Julian Sayin, who most likely will be that starting quarterback, for the Ohio State team. They lost a lot, but you also got Arch Manning, who's just now coming to his own, starting his first full game. This will be his first full season starting. He started a few games when Quinn Ewers was out with an injury, but at the same time, it's like we haven't seen enough yet, And it's just interesting. It's an interesting game. Texas and Ohio State will be the big one. I think a game to keep an eye on, which for me, and I'm curious about it, and there are two games. You're going to think, this man's crazy for saying this, but I'm curious to see what Florida State and Alabama is going to have. What's going to happen there? I'm curious to see if Florida State, because Florida State had one of the worst seasons I've ever seen Florida State have. There's only one way to go, and that's up, right? So we'll see what happens there. And then the night game, LSU Clemson. I think that game is going to have a lot to do that could happen and play effect in both teams' seasons. So it's like, okay, that's going to shift the course for both teams' seasons. But I think the matchups that you mentioned were really, really good. I'll keep an eye out for Iowa State. I think, and this is not me giving guys for listening a spoiler alert to the conference standing projections that I'm going to do for the Big 12, but I think that Iowa State's going to be up there. Not trying to be a spoiler, but I think Iowa State's going to be up there. They're a loaded team. Rocco Beck at quarterback is going to be good. And I think that the matchups you mentioned were really, really good. One last thing before we kind of wrap up this whole episode and wrap everything up. Who are some players in college football that you're most excited about seeing, whether it's freshmen, sophomore, junior, or guys who are entering the 2026 draft and you expect to enter the 2026 draft? Who are some guys that you're looking out for in college that these guys are going to be, wonderful?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm still kind of getting a little bit more versed on like who's stepping up in the quarterback challenges and whatnot. but definitely Arch Manning. I have to go with Arch Manning. I think all eyes are going to be on him because as I said earlier, he came in for Quinn Ewers and he managed those games when Quinn was out with injury. But now you're going a full season. Now you're playing a full 12 weeks of football, and that's a lot. That is a lot, and you may not think it's a lot, but it is, and it gets exhausting, especially like when you start taking those hits and playing, good hour and a half of football, especially when you go into those overtime games, and then it's even longer. So how is he going to fare? How well is he going to do? Matthew Golden is gone, so now you lost that weapon. So what are you going to do? How are you going to lead this team? And I don't want to say like he's inexperienced, but he's inexperienced. He hasn't played a full season. So that's really the one I'm really focused on. I really want to keep an eye on that. And I want to see, what they do, and then Oregon's quarterback situation, what are they going to do? They're in a three-way battle. So that'll be a fun one to watch. And I don't want to make any claims yet until I know for sure who the starting quarterback is going to be. You and I talked a little bit and during, in the previous months. So that's going to be fun,
And then you got guys like who were the top players coming back, like a guy like Jeremiah Smith. I always say on X or Twitter or whatever, Instagram, whatever, I say, when you see Jeremiah Smith, you run, man, because that's a scary dude at receiver. A lot of people compare him to Julio Jones when Julio Jones was coming out of Alabama going to Atlanta Falcons, and they compare him to prime Julio days. And I'm like, that's a scary comparison because Julio was one of the greats, I think. And what he did in college and NFL was just amazing. So Jeremiah Smith catching, those mentions early on, that's a scary thing. So you got guys like that. You got guys like Arch Manning that you mentioned as well. And I like that you mentioned him because it's going to be curious to see what happens with Arch Manning, and just happens with him starting his first full season and getting into the swing of things and just being, full-time starter now for everything. So that really just about does it for everybody for this interview. But Matt, tell us where you can find OCN and tell us about OCN just one last time before we wrap up.
Yeah, so OCN, Orange Crush News 365. I give Broncos takes, opinions. I'll break down pre and post game, give you all the analytics as best as I can, my thoughts. You can find me on Instagram. It's going to be OC_news365. My ex, OC News 365. It's the same thing for TikTok, and I also have a YouTube channel as well. Just started that one up. But I'm on pretty much every social media platform you can think of, and it's OC News 365.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for being on Pigskin Frenzy, Matt. Guys, we are out of time. A big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit down, listen to some college football coverage, and listen to Matt Williams from OCN 365. Guys, presented by Pigskin Frenzy and me. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like the episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. Just all you got to do is share around with others, man. Follow with others and follow and share around with others as well. Guys, X and Instagram's at pigskin_frenzy. You can find us there. You get everything up to date for college football news and highlights. You got trivia posts on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's college football question, as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. There's the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Guys, all things up to date there as well. Guys, big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen. Presented by me, we have a big show Thursday. We're going over Frenzy's top 10 list. Again, you're thinking another list? Yes, another list episode of Pigskin Frenzy. We're going over Frenzy's top 10 list of running backs entering the 2025 college football season. So make sure you tune in Thursday on all platforms, guys. And if you want to come to know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, guys, keep plugging in X and Instagram at pigskin_frenzy. Message me on there. Message me on the website as well. Contact info down below, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com, because it is, to me, the best decision you could ever make in your life. I love it. I love Jesus, and we give him all the praise for this show, because without him, we wouldn't be doing this show. And we give him all the praise for this show. Guys, big thank you again to Matt Williams for joining us today. Guys, I'm Joel Norris. We're signing off. We will see you Thursday for an all-new Pigskin Frenzy. For everybody out there, please and always stay the course.